Welcome everyone. My name is Nikki Lewis and I'm the West Springfield Care Coalition Coordinator, and we're here today for a roundtable discussion on vaping to provide some tips and resources for parents in the community about what this epidemic is that we've all been hearing about, what we can do about it, and where you can find some resources.
Welcome everybody. My name is Pete Gillen. I'm the middle school principal. Very happy to be here.
Good afternoon, Vito Perone. I'm the principal here at the high school.
Hi, Officer Johnson from the middle school, resource officer.
I'm Captain Jay Gehring with the West Springfield Police Department.
All right, and first we're going to begin by talking a bit and hearing from our principals about what's going on at the school.
Thank you, Nikki. So this is something that I think, as we all know, has been an important issue in our community and certainly has escalated in recent years. It's relatively new to the middle school, and by relatively new, I mean probably in the last 2 years or so, we've seen a big increase in students as young as 6th grade getting into vaping and juuling and using some of those kind of products. We've been pretty successful at the middle school in terms of addressing this, working with families, working with students, but we recognize the need for further education for the community and for parents, and for continued vigilance, as this is an epidemic that is growing nationwide, and I think we feel that impact in our community as well.
Absolutely. And Dr. Perone, could you tell us a bit about the new diversion program that's going to be implemented?
Sure. I feel like the reactiveness that we've had at the high school hasn't been beneficial. As Mr. Gillen said, it's a relatively new phenomenon, and more students are getting involved in these things, these products, and are being addicted by them. And we've been reacting to that and consequencing students, which hasn't been beneficial to solving the problem. I think the realization that we've had is that it has to be a community effort to solve the problem. So we really appreciate the partnership with the Care Coalition, with the PD, and with our community resources at large. What we're trying to do this year, instead of being reactive, is be more preventative. And we're looking at 3 things. We're looking at prevention, we're looking at accountability, and we're looking at treatment. And we're trying to build a program that's going to give students an opportunity to get help if they need it, to be held accountable when they have to be, and then to also be informed so that we can prevent further spread of this epidemic.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that work. I really think that by educating and providing that component rather than having a strictly punitive standpoint, we can help youth understand the dangers of this epidemic and connect them to the resources that they need to hopefully stop.
It's a great point, and one thing I wanted to put a shout out to Officer Matina, who's not here. He works at the high school, he's the SRO, and he's integral to our program. What we're trying to do is, when students are caught vaping, instead of suspending them per the old policy, we've changed the policy that we're putting them through a program of diversion with Officer Matina at lunch. We're not taking them out of classes, we're taking them out of their lunch period, we're hitting them where it hurts in their social time, and Officer Matina put together a presentation, and he's working with those students on the first and second offense to try and inform and prevent further offenses. Once a student becomes chronically involved in the consequence side of it, we're looking to get parents involved on campus, in meetings, and also to offer treatment opportunities. We're contracting with an outside provider after school. Again, we're not trying to involve or take away from, I should say, class time. We're trying to hit students during social time at lunch, and then after school, we're trying to get them in for some treatment, because it is an addiction. And that's one of the things we heard loud and clear from some of our student leaders in the building.
Absolutely.
It's important to note that the middle school echoes that policy and has mimicked that as well in the work with Officer Johnson, the West Springfield Police Department as well. We have a very similar, if not identical, program that's scaled back a little bit for the age appropriateness, but it's important for the community to know that this is a shared philosophy. It's not simply specific to the high school, but it's the high school and middle school partnering together with a similar policy, similar program that works in alignment with the police department, and we follow those same procedures and thoughts as well at our school.
And I think probably the last thing I need to say is that the goal isn't to punish and to be punitive. It's not to fine students and their families, though that is part of the progressive discipline that's in our handbook. We want to work with students and families to prevent and to treat what's going on in our schools, and we couldn't do it without the support of the West Springfield PD.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I know an exciting opportunity that we have that we're looking to implement in the near future is curriculum that does touch on vaping, and that is the Catch My Breath curriculum, and that will take place over the course of 4 weeks, one approximately 30 to 40-minute lesson each week, and that similarly provides those educational resources, understanding what's in these vaping products, teaching youth these refusal skills so that if they are offered a vaping device, that they have those skills and they've practiced what they can say in that situation to help get them out of that, as well as those cessation and recovery resources as well. So that's something exciting to look forward to.
Fantastic.
It is. Our health teachers were excited when they saw that curriculum come through, and it's great to have the support of community groups and state groups and partnering with what that education looks like, because it makes the work feel much less singular and much more communal. So I know that at the middle school and certainly at the high school that we're really appreciative of that partnered effort.
Absolutely. And yeah, as you just mentioned, this is something that isn't just happening in West Springfield, but it's happening all over the state and all over the country. So it's incredible that these different community groups are all coming together and that we can comprehensively tackle this issue. All right, thank you. And now I want to turn it over to Officer Johnson. Could you tell us a little bit about these devices and how they work and what parents might be able to look out for?
Sure. So as you see on the table here, we have these are just a few of the confiscated devices that we have. There's other ones, other names called Jewels. They all look fairly similar. These ones right here, they kind of look like flash drives. There's some that are smaller. You can plug them into a computer, just like a plug for an iPhone type of thing. And they're really discreet. Kids can hide them pretty easily. So we try and educate parents to look for these types of things. I know we have some pamphlets here, and if you just do a little research online to see what these types of things look like, the harder thing where kids are getting away with them in class is that they don't necessarily put out as much smoke as a cigarette would, and the smell's different. So it's kind of a fruity type of thing. I know when we go into the boys' room and we smell that fruity kind of smell, we know it's not the boys. It's the vape stuff, and that's where they're doing a lot of it. So they come in all different shapes and sizes. There's some that look like a watch now. There's some that look like asthma inhalers. They're just coming out with so many different things. So to keep up with the new trends and what they look like is a little bit of a task, but we're working on it.
Absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about the process? What happens if you find a student vaping during school hours or?
Yeah, so the same type of thing. If we find a student now, we are implementing the diversion program. So again, for us, the middle school, it's lunchtime. They're going to be with me for a few lunch detentions. We have a bit of a curriculum to go through about prevention, about what it actually does to you with the addiction, that kind of stuff. So we're educating them a little bit. Phone calls, go home, and so it's progression based. So if they keep repeat offending, then there's different consequences as they keep going. So that's kind of how we have it geared right now.
Okay, thank you. And I know right now we are able to test on what's in the device, correct?
Yeah, so that's one of the other problems that we've seen over the last year or so is the THC being put into these. I know this one had it before. So Captain Gearing was able to get test strips through a company, so we can test those right away. We have a bunch of them. We can test them for THC. They come back in 3 seconds, whether it has THC or not. And again, so those punishments, depending on if it's just nicotine or if it's contains THC, obviously are different for different consequences for that. But it is something that we have seen and we have found in schools as well.
Absolutely. And Captain Gearing, could you speak a little more about that?
Sure. So as a captain, one of my roles is I'm the direct supervisor for the school resource officers. And I saw the direct need for us to be involved and support the administration. The SROs are basically the front lines in this war, I'll say. They're the ones coming across the kids and speaking with the kids, building these relationships. And they're also the ones finding these devices for the most part. So I'm in direct contact with them constantly. As Officer Johnson said, we do test every device that we find. And it's important for parents to know that there's a lot of THC talk and discussion these days, but you can ingest any controlled substance or narcotic in these things, so they are dangerous. They present a clear and present danger for that reason alone. And for that reason alone, we test for different types of narcotics. And we do document, we confiscate the device, property numbers made within the West Springfield Police Department computer system. We hold those in our evidence locker as property. And we also document a report as to what transpired, what was found, and the results of the testing.
Absolutely. And thank you both so much for the work that you're doing and keeping on top of this, as important as it is. And we've seen nationally and across our state, as well as many others, all of the consequences, unfortunately, that are coming as a result of this. And as you mentioned, there is more that can be in these devices than just nicotine. And that creates a concern because there's little that we know
Yes.
about what these results
Yes,
will be.
and often when we do speak with parents, they're surprised to hear that. You know, I'm hearing alcohol, I'm hearing heroin, I'm hearing all sorts of controlled substances, and so.
Yeah, and that's very important to bring to the attention of our community. Do you have any advice for parents if they are suspicious that their child might be vaping, or what steps they can take?
I mean, I could defer to Officer Johnson being on the front line, but I mean, you know, it's parenting 101. You have to be a parent, and sometimes that's not an easy task, and you need to, you know, the backpacks is where you're finding these things, and you need to be in your children's rooms, and like Officer Johnson said, some of these devices are much smaller and they stick right into a computer. It looks like a jump drive per se. So you need to do a little policing and conversation. Have conversation with your kids about the dangers of these.
Yeah, if I could, I would agree. You know, I'm a
Absolutely.
father of 4, and we have to actively engage with our students and have conversations, our children, I should say, with our children, and see where they're at and what's going on. And just like with video games, there's an issue there with some students. With vaping, there's an issue. You know, we have to be engaged and interacting with them around these difficult topics. And unfortunately, I remember when I was 16, the things that were done when I was in my youth, I certainly wouldn't advocate as a principal or a father. But it's all part of growing up and experiencing life, and we have to just find a way to develop trust with our children and our students.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we know that parents are a crucial part of this, and we want to help you in any way that we can. If you're looking for resources, just general information about vaping, or even tips on how to talk to your kids about this issue and where you can go for help, feel free to visit the CARE Coalition website at tows.org/care, and stay tuned for more.